Hello, Internet. My name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I want to talk to you about a little show called Community. 6 seasons in a movie. Except we never got that movie. So, for anyone who doesn't know, before he went on to do Rick and Morty with Justin Roiland, Dan Harmon had another TV show called Community. It's not like those are his only two projects. He's been a showrunner on a lot of things, but they're the most famous too. And Community is like properly good, like truly good in a way that very few shows are. The basic concept is a community college where everything is just shitty enough to be just wacky enough for the show to take place. And it focuses on these 7 students who form a study group together, and most of them are adults. And, there's some romance, some drama, some hijinks, a lot of meta-analysis, and some real star power. I mean, they got John Oliver, Chevy Chase, Donald Glover, just to name a few. Ken Jeong is on there for, the entire 6 seasons. Is kind of impressive. But the show has a troubled history. I don't know as much about it as some people do. Obviously, I'm not a behind-the-scenes person, and I don't really research behind-the-scenes stuff all that much. But even just from the outside looking in, you can tell the show has troubles. Season 1 is 25 episodes. Season 2 is 24 episodes. Season 3 is 22 episodes. And season 4, 5, and 6 are each 13 episodes. That's the kind of thing that shows some serious lack of faith from the higher-ups at the studio. Because episode counts are decided in advance of the season airing. And, the fact that they were approved for fewer and fewer episodes until finally they were cut to the bare minimum of 13 is just... it really sucks. And the thing is, it's not like... Community is one of those shows that has, some ups and downs, right? Like, everyone knows Parks and Rec eventually was really good. But if you go back and watch season 1 and 2, you're just like, Jesus Christ, how did this survive? Like, it's just wall-to-wall, terrible, annoying characters who have nothing interesting to say. Like, the only good character in the first couple of seasons is Ron, or that's not his name, is it? The boss guy, the bacon and gold and anti-government, that guy. I can't remember his name. I keep wanting to say Ron Burgundy because, but obviously that's not him. Anyway, I'll remember it at some point. The point is that some TV shows we all remember as good, but they had rough patches, right? Community isn't really like that. Like, Community was unbelievably solid for the first 3 seasons, and season 4 was still pretty freaking great. Season 5, it's okay. But some of the best individual episodes are in season 5. The Floor is Lava episode and the episode where they do a investigation on the ass crack bandit, both those happen in season 5, and it's, some really strong individual episodes. Not a great season overall, but some high points. And season 6 kind of just exists. Like, the last episode is a nice little send-off, but everything else is just there, technically, in the broadest sense of the word. And again, they get some real star power. You know, they try to spice things up with that. They brought in Keith David Williams, who I thought was in more things because I thought I recognized his voice, but I was just looking at his page on Wikipedia and I don't recognize any of the things he's in, so maybe he just has a very similar voice to some other famous person, and that's why they got him. But he also looks pretty familiar. Anyway, point is, the show had a gradual dip in quality over time, and that quality dip is mostly due to the shift in cast, not necessarily in the writing. I mean, there were definitely issues with the show running. Season 6, for example, is a Yahoo original. Wow. Okay. And of course, there were issues with Dan Harmon stepping away from the set and then coming back and all of that stuff. But the thing is that, you know, Community was solid, and then it was kneecapped, and then it was still pretty solid, and then it suddenly just got worse. And it's so weird to see that happen, because that doesn't happen, you know? Like, normally if a show suddenly degrades in quality, it's because the showrunners and writers divert their attention to some other project because this one's too big to fail, and they just, you know, backslide into whatever's popular because the new showrunners aren't, like, as qualified. Look up The Simpsons. You know, or because the people who are running it get too far up their own asses and circle the drain forever. Look up South Park. I mean, not that South Park is suddenly bad. The Simpsons isn't really bad either, but, you know, the glory days are past. And Community is kind of like that, right? Where it started out so strong and so good. It had so much going for it. And then it dropped in quality. But it seems like the drop in quality corresponds to being kneecapped by the studio. Season 4 is, I think, the season where Dan Harmon left, and that's why the episode count was shortened. But it's not, like, worse than season 3. Like, all of the individual episodes are solid. It's just that there's not as many of them, so they don't get to tell as big of an overarching story. And that kind of sucks. Actually, in season 3, they really got into an overarching story when, in the last 6 episodes, they introduce a plot that covers, like, the next 6 episodes, except for one, which is just randomly not related to the overarching plot that they're in the middle of, which seems weird. I'm not sure why, but, you know, I guess they wanted to break the pace by doing a spin-off thing. You know, almost every episode in Community is a high concept one shot, which is cool. But it's hard to think you could do that forever. And there is something they could have done to help with that. Because it's set in a school, they could have leaned on the crutch of typical school events to do a lot of their one-shots. And they sometimes do that. For example, every year they have a Halloween episode, and then a few episodes later they have a Christmas episode, and then the episode right after Christmas is the episode where they all come back from winter break and, you know, get settled back into classes and stuff. And, well, for the first 3 seasons, they did that. And then they stopped doing it because they lost all of their episodes and they had to focus, which sucks, you know. Um, and that's a good start, right? Like that works. But realistically, there are a lot more standard events in a school year, right? I mean, there's the first day of school, which they usually do an episode on, but so there's the first day of school, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, um, you know, and of course there's the winter break that doesn't take place during school. But after the point where these guys become friends who would hang out outside of school, it makes sense to have a New Year's party or a 4th of July party or whatever, you know. Then you have Thanksgiving. No, I already mentioned. Sorry. Then you have, well, Valentine's and Easter and spring break. It's probably some overlap between spring break and Easter, depending on what kind of school you're going to. And then, you know, the end of school. But along the way, there's also midterms and finals, both for individual semesters and for the year as a whole. And, you know, these things could be used as consistent, like, points to prop up episodes that revolve around the same central idea, but in different ways. You know, for example, every time they do a Halloween episode, they make fun of a different Halloween movie trope, or, you know, scary movie trope. And every time they do a Christmas episode, they make fun of a different Christmas movie trope. And you could kind of do that all around. They also lay out the fact that the school has 5 dances every year, which is a lot, but and I wouldn't expect an episode for each of them. But, you know, a dance each season would make sense. And they do that, I think, at least in the first 3 seasons. But, yeah. The show is very, very good with what it does with its characters. So there's 7 core characters around whom all of the plots revolve until some of those characters disappear. And they have an amazing chemistry with each other. And they all contribute to the group dynamic. And they all have, you know, chemistry with individual members that's different from their chemistry with the group as a whole, right? So the main character, if you can have a main character in an ensemble, is Jeff. And he starts the study group because he wants to bang this hot girl named Britta. And she is just the worst. Like, just the worst. You know, she's that one crazy person who always has to protest something even though there's nothing to protest, and she doesn't actually have any values, and it's just, ugh, shut up. Just shut up. And that's how all the characters respond to her as well. But, you know, actually, she doesn't start out like that. She starts out pretty reasonable and just sometimes has that, but over time her character gets more and more exaggerated so she can more and more easily be the butt of jokes. Isn't that just great writing? You know, there's Annie, the well, I mean, the show runs for a while, so she doesn't stay 18, but she's the youngest one in the group, and she's the most ambitious one. You know, she wants to get straight A's and be perfect, and she also has a crush on alternately Troy or Jeff, depending on what they feel like at the moment. Then there's Troy and Abed, who are a package deal, and it's really, really messed up when they become no longer a package. Abed is the weird one who, breaks the fourth wall and thinks of everything as a TV show. And Troy is the one who sits in the background and doesn't say anything unless he's talking to Abed or making a cheap one-liner that no one listens to. Quite frankly, his contribution to the group isn't that significant most of the time, which is why I think it's really weird that during season 6, when they're, trying to metatextually address the issues with the show, they're all like, it all went downhill after after Troy left. And I'm like, no, it went downhill after Shirley left. And to a lesser extent, Pierce. Shirley is the religious fundamentalist mother in the group who has anger issues. And Pierce is the racist old man who's been doing this for too long and has attention issues. Like, he needs attention. And every character can break off with any other character, Troy and Abed have this really great best friend chemistry that's just a joy to watch, Annie and Jeff have sort of this like father-daughter type thing going on, but with some weird creepy sex undertones because they're not actually related. He's just like a father figure, but still. Jeff and Shirley bring out the worst in each other, the like cattiness and bitchiness that they try to push to the side. Shirley and Annie bring out each other's competitive sides because they both see themselves as the perfect one or the cool one, and they try to compete for that. Pierce, is frequently the butt of jokes and a racist piece of shit most of the time. But sometimes he's like the wise old father figure for Jeff, just for like a moment. And the list goes on. Everyone has good interactions with everyone else, and it's just really solid character writing, and the characters bounce off of each other really well. And that's in a large part due to the amazing quality of the acting. But it can't last forever. And as the show goes on, some of those actors move on with their life or die. I think Chevy Chase died. I know his character died, but I can't remember. Hang on. No, he's alive. Wikipedia says he's 76. Good on him. But they wrote his character off. He probably had something else he wanted to do with his life. And then later on in that same season, they get rid of Troy's character and Shirley's character. And, so here's what happens. Season 4 ends with a send-off that would have been great if they had been able to build up to it for a full length of time, right? Like, the send-off itself is pretty good, but it leaves some loose ends. We don't really know what happens to any of the other characters post-Community. We just know that Jeff graduates and everyone is happy for now. The end-ish? Then season 5 starts, and there's no Chevy Chase, and they make a joke very early, like in the first episode, about how so-and-so left Scrubs mid-season in like season 8 or whatever, and the person who makes that joke is Troy, who leaves in the middle of this season. So clearly they knew that was going to happen, and they were foreshadowing and making a joke about it. And it's just weird. They try to replace Pierce with a different old man character. Since Jeff has graduated, he becomes a teacher, and so they introduce an old jaded teacher who can be, a part of the group. And they also bring back John Oliver because he'd been missing for a couple of seasons. And between this new character and John Oliver and Kevin Jong all getting more screen time, they hope to fill in for these two missing characters. But it doesn't quite work because the chemistry between them and the other characters isn't quite there. Like, Pierce is established and we all know who he is and what he's about and how he relates to everyone. And so you don't need to do episodes that establish his connection to people when you're already running short on episodes. But they do have to do that in season 5. And then the guy that, like the old teacher guy that they got, he was a decent character and he could have worked, but he's not brought back for season 6. So they introduce a new character, a female lead who can be like, I don't know, I'm not really sure what her role in the story is, and neither are the showrunners. They joke about that in the show, and it's just like, if you don't know why she's here, then why are you putting her here? She doesn't make the group work. This is not what we needed. She's like the stern disciplinarian type, but also like tries to be fun and energetic for other people sometimes, but only sometimes. But she just doesn't have any good interactions with anyone or the group as a whole, and she's all business, and the show is supposed to be all fun, and it kind of doesn't work. And this is, of course, after Shirley has left, so they've lost, the only black guy, the only black woman, and the racist guy. Go figure. And they replace those characters with the stern old lady, the dean, because John Oliver was too big to show up for this show again. I mean, probably not, but he did have his own show by that point, I think. And Chang. And that doesn't fix the group dynamic. I mean, the Dean and Chang were already in the show before. They're just given bigger roles so that they can be part of the group, kind of. But it doesn't work. They're not. No. Like I said, they introduce this new character who's also a student, but he's just kind of there. He doesn't really participate in anything. I mean, he's a good-looking actor. He does his role well, and he has a great voice, but he's as a character, he's just milquetoast as fuck and completely pointless. And it's just, I don't understand. I don't understand why these decisions were made. If you can't get the same ensemble you had before, why try to replace your characters with randoms you have to spend time establishing? And if you are going to do that, why don't they actually fill the role that was left behind by the other character? And why do you replace them after one season? If you're gonna, pick a replacement, then stick to it. If you replace them again, then we just have to waste time learning these new characters and it's a mess again. So, yeah. Ultimately, Community is a really amazing show for the first 4 seasons. And there are some really amazing episodes in season 5 and 6. But on the whole, season 5 and 6 aren't worth your time. Which is a shame, you know, because it's so good. Before I finish that, one other thing is the show in the first 3 seasons has 2 different versions of their opening. One that plays a full-length song, and one that just plays like a 2-second clip, and that enables them to squeeze an extra minute of runtime into certain episodes that need an extra minute. And in seasons 4, 5, and 6, they always played the long version. So the episode count was cut, and they lost their wiggle room on the length of episodes, which really sucks. And again, it just highlights the studio's lack of faith in the project for whatever reason. Anyway, so the reason it's so good is because, well, one, it's got a bunch of good characters with great actors behind them who, work well together, and it's an ensemble, so that's a good thing. But two, it's got a bunch of really great individual episodes because they're constantly doing high concept one shots. There's the paintball episodes and the floor is lava episode and the Christmas episodes, and there's a lot of unique special episodes. But I think in season 5 or 6 they figured out that they could use this for marketing, because oh boy, they start running episodes that are just advertisements, right? Like one episode, the school is being bought by Subway, and they're just consistently marketing Subway the whole way through. Now, they did this earlier on in the series. There was an episode where Shirley wanted to make a sandwich shop, and instead the shop was purchased by Subway, and there was a subplot where Subway was represented by a person, and that person was named Subway and fell in love with Britta, and it was hilarious. And also there was a blanket for it. It's pretty cool. But the thing is, that didn't feel like an advertisement because it was a joke, and it was ridiculous, and it was woven into the plot in a way that made sense. But in season 6, 5 or 6, they introduce and wrap up all in one episode. They announce that there's someone coming over to inspect the school to evaluate its value for insurance purposes. When they find out that the Save Greendale committee did such a good job that the school is worth money again, they the board decides they want to sell it, so they sell it to Subway, and the entire rest of the episode is surrounded with Subway banners and Subway advertisements and people singing about footlongs, and it's just like, God, why are you advertising at me? I wanted this to be a good, fun show. And then there's an episode where Jeff turns 40 and has a mental breakdown and tries to, take some weird pills, and we see his dream world of him being a G.I. Joe, which, sure, fine, fits his character, whatever. But, like, the problem is, it's one giant G.I. Joe commercial. And they use, like, the actual G.I. Joe characters and a logo and names and everything. They don't rip it off in any way. You know, when they wanted to do an episode that talks about the cultural impact of Game of Thrones, they made up their own version of Game of Thrones so they could talk about that, even though they had already referenced Game of Thrones in an earlier season, which seemed, kind of silly to cut it out after you'd already made a reference in the past, but whatever. So you can tell, like, they had to get the rights somehow, and it's probably because they were basically doing a big, huge advertisement. And sure, there's some jokes at G.I. Joe's expense during that, but not enough to make it not feel like an advertisement. And yeah. And it's also clear that the showrunners knew there was a dip in quality because they joke about it during season 6. They mention how they're hemorrhaging characters and this and that. And it's just kind of, well, sad. And, Community had room for 6 seasons in a movie. That was the running gag on the show, that they'd eventually get a movie. And I hope they do still. Like, I really do. Because a movie would be like basically the runtime of 8 episodes, give or take. And I would love to see what that creative team and that acting team could do with that amount of runtime, because let me tell you, these 20-minute episodes of Community are jam-packed. Just packed to the fucking teeth. Like, I thought they were hour-long episodes until I started rewatching it and saw the runtime on the clips, and I was like, oh, it's not an hour long. They just put that much shit in. Holy crap. It's all up on Netflix and a couple other places, so definitely stream it and watch it if you haven't already. And I don't know how realistic a movie would be at this point. Like, after Rick and Morty took off, one of the things I thought was, well, Dan Harmon's got a lot more clout now. Maybe he can finally make that movie happen. When he's not busy working on the next season of Rick and Morty for 3 years. But I don't know. Also, Justin Roiland is running a different show on, like, Hulu or whatever. I don't know. I just keep seeing ads for it. So maybe there is no thing. Maybe there's room for him to step away and do something else, or maybe there's not. I don't know. I do know I would love a Community movie. It might be difficult to get everyone. I know Donald Glover went on to do his music career, and the guy who plays Jeff had his own TV show for a while. It was named after him. I don't know if that's still on the air or not. I know they wrote off Chevy Chase's character, so he can't come back. And so, like, there's a limit to how much of a reunion they could do. John Oliver probably wouldn't want to come back because he's running his news show all the time. But I mean, like, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be so great if we could get that reunion? Get back all the characters. You'd have Pierce come back as a ghost and do a hologram again. Something like that. Like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something we can do because Community is one of those shows that just like does things that other shows are afraid to do. Like there's one episode where all the characters get in a room and they're, celebrating, they're having a party, they've ordered pizza, and one of the characters has to go outside to go downstairs and get the pizza. And they're all sitting at a table already and don't want to go down, so Jeff decides, all right, I'm going to roll a die, and whoever's number comes up, you go down and get the pizza. And then we see, we see all of the characters in turn. We see a different dimension version of what would happen if each character left. And then Abed comments on, I wonder what happened in the other timelines every time. And then at the end, we find out that there's a darkest timeline, right? And for the rest of the show, there's callbacks to that episode where Abed mentions the darkest timeline. And it's brilliant. And that's the kind of shit you don't see in shows often enough. And I wish there was more of it, And is that kind of like high level attention to detail and commitment to storytelling, and commitment to storytelling in a unique way that makes sense to the characters and is entirely about the characters? You just don't see that often enough. There's so few shows that can really scratch that itch and still be like truly properly hilarious, So to me, Community is special because it's so well made and it's so well written and acted and directed and just great, right up until the point where enough things conspire against it to hold it back, and until that point it was like truly good, and I mean there's a good reason for that. We've seen a lot of the other stuff Dan Harmon has worked on, and all of it is good, and a lot of it gets pushed back from the studios for whatever reason. He did a YouTube original called Good Game, starring the Game Grumps, which is kind of awesome, but it only has one season and it doesn't wrap up the plot. I think they were expecting to get a second season, but YouTube Originals kind of died. Sad. I was kind of hoping there would be a second season of that. Rick and Morty is doing pretty well, and it's, growing and expanding, but, Roiland was already proven in the cartoon community for all of his work on Adventure Time, and, and I think his name gets more credit sometimes than Harmon's does, even though I think Harmon is the only reason that the show, has any structure or quality. I mean, don't get me wrong, Justin is great at what he does, but what he does is maniacal, balls to the wall improv. And if you want to have a structured story, you need someone to come in and, edit that. And so I think that's why they make such a good team. But, But yeah, I wish there was a movie. I wish we got to see more Troy and Abed in the morning. I can't sing, but still. I just wish there was more of it. I wish it had never been ruined by, all these outside factors. I really want there to be 6 seasons in a movie. All right? God damn it, we deserve a Community film. All right? It is not small potatoes. It is a big show with a lot of fans, and it's very, very good. Okay? And it's got a lot of great people on it. And people who, quite frankly, you wouldn't expect to be on it. Like Chevy Chase on his Wikipedia page that I've got up right now has an entire section devoted to his time on Community, which apparently lasted 5 years. Cool. Um, and of course, he's like super famous because he's been doing this forever, and he's a great comedian and screenwriter and everything. But like, that kind of goes for almost everyone on the show. Like, there's a couple of people on the show who I don't know from anything else. Like Danny Pudi, the guy who plays Abed. I've never seen him in anything else, but he's great at what he does in that show. Um, he's really good. At one point, he impersonates. Well, basically, they do a body swapping thing between Troy and Abed. So, uh, so Troy pretends to play Abed's character, and Abed pretends to play Troy's character. But of course, in real life, it's the actors pretending to switch roles. And they pull it off beautifully. Like, it's spoopy how good they are at impersonating each other. And there's an episode where Abed takes a course on Nicolas Cage, and he watches every Nicolas Cage film and goes crazy and starts doing the most absurd Nick Cage impressions, and it's just like perfect. So this dude's got range, and he's clearly good. I'd love to see him in more stuff. I don't know. I don't know. There's so much panache and quality and potential behind Community, but it just died, and that sucks. Like, it always sucks when a show dies before its time, but it sucks a lot worse when a show dies because no one had any faith in it, and sometimes, a show has like a small cult following, but not enough to give it like good numbers, like Firefly, which it's just a cheap American version of Cowboy Bebop with less likable characters. There, I said it. But everyone loved it because Joss Whedon and all that. But like, the viewership on that was like 1/10 of what Buffy pulled in, and Buffy was barely meeting the standards of the studio, right? And so of course it got canceled. And the fan support was enough, to drive a film. But, but the thing is, like, Community didn't get canceled. It got all 6 seasons. They just got progressively more hamstrung. And I don't know why, It doesn't seem like they had issues with numbers. Maybe it's because they had too many expensive, high-level actors? I don't know. Whatever the reason, it fell apart. It's always sad when something good falls apart. But yeah. So that's why everyone should watch Community. And start trending the hashtag 6 seasons in a movie. I want to see a trend. I want to see millions of Community fans talking about that movie so that Dan Harmon feels the pressure. We will pressure you, Harmon. These are dark times in the world, and we need better entertainment, and by God, we will get it. Or we'll all be sad. There's no ultimatum there. It's just, we'll be sad if we don't get it. That's, yeah. And you won't get our money. There's also that. But, yeah. I actually think now would be the perfect time to make a community film. I mean, one, nobody's working on anything else because pandemic. Two, people are sad and need entertainment because no one's working on anything else. And three, Community has been around for long enough to build a pretty big following of people who didn't see it when it was originally airing and have only since caught up with it on streaming services or piracy. And, that's a whole lot of extra people you can get money out of for, a film, if there is one. So please let there be one. Please? 6 seasons in a movie. Make it happen. Trend it on Twitter. Yeah. Anyway. Let me know in the comments down below, what are your favorite episodes? I think my favorite episode in concept is probably the Floor is Lava episode. There's also, obviously the paintball episodes are great. And the episode where they go to get the pizza and split the timelines, that's pretty awesome. The episode with the pen, the bottle episode, oh man, there's so many great episodes. And it's just nice to have a show that can do anything and have no boundaries and just be great, But yeah, let me know in the comments what your favorite episodes are, what your general thoughts on Community are, and what you would want to see out of the movie. Personally, I would love to have a high stakes game of some sort. Like how they did the paintball and the Floor is Lava. Something like that. They have a reunion with some of the characters who are missing, and they decide to celebrate that reunion with this huge high concept extravaganza, maybe like laser tag or hide and seek extreme edition or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, that'd be cool, I think. I know the laser tag thing is basically just paintball, but more colorful and darker, but still, they could do something with it. They could rip on Starship Troopers or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I would love to see a Community film, and I would love to get some of the cast back together for that film. Shirley, I don't know what she's up to. I should probably look up, but I'm sure it's not much during the pandemic. I don't know if Donald Glover would actually want to come back. I think he left specifically so he could do his music career and wants to stay that way. But I'd probably come back for the right amount of money, especially if you could make a message out of it. He's all about messages, right? I don't really pay attention to people that much. Well, famous people, I mean. I pay attention to people who matter. But, yeah. There might be difficulties, but I would love to see it happen. And I believe it could happen, if people wanted it enough. But I mean, they're doing a Friends, after like 20 years. And those guys have all moved on and had much better careers. Um, I know some people joke that certain actors didn't go on to do anything, but like Matt LeBlanc actually had a pretty good career. He was in a couple other sitcoms and did some other stuff. I mean, the guy who played Ross Fisher, is that his name? Fisher, Fishman. Why do I keep wanting to say Fish? Whatever his name was. He was in a bunch of other stuff. He was in Band of Brothers. Weirdly, seemed kind of out of place there, but yeah. Jennifer Aniston obviously had a good career. I mean, that's not what we're talking about. It's not what we're talking about. Point is, Community deserves a movie. We deserve that reunion movie for Community, and we deserve to have the full cast back together for that movie, and for it to be good, because Community was good, and it can be good again if we all believe hard enough. Right, Abed? I don't have Abed. I can't do a bit like that. I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Okay, end card time. I'm supposed to tell you to like, comment, subscribe, all that stupid YouTube shit. There's a bell thingy, whatever. I have all the social media stuff: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. Mostly I use Facebook and Twitter to tell you about my Twitch and YouTube uploads. I've got a Patreon, but Patreon is one of those things where people who can afford to throw away money give money to people who can't. And so if you can't afford to throw away money, then you shouldn't be doing that. And if you can afford to throw away money, consider charities. There's a pandemic, there's global warming, there's millions of people in the world who don't have toilets, which is just awful. So I've linked a few charities in the description down below in case you're interested in that. And if you can't donate money to a charity, consider donating some of your time, because that's also very useful. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.